Thank you for joining us. It is a momentous occasion when we can come together to celebrate the achievements of two leaders at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. These virtual installation ceremonies are among some of the first at All Children's, with a half dozen more on the horizon. What a testament it is to our faculty to have the belief and support of philanthropic donors in the community and to be honored with named and endowed positions. It is with great excitement that we begin today's installation ceremony. First, we recognize Dr. George Jallow for his leadership of our Institute for Brain Protection Sciences and celebrate an esteemed career of helping the youngest, most vulnerable members of our community, our children. Establishing an endowment is a transformative act of philanthropy. Endowments ensure continuous and permanent financial support for the endowed shareholder. They also give prestige and recognition to the honorees who are so deserving. We are so grateful to our donors, the Goldenberg Family Foundation, for this extraordinary gift. You will hear directly from the Goldenbergs during this program and what inspired their support of Dr. Jallow as the inaugural David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. As a relatively new member of the Johns Hopkins Medicine family, we are thrilled to establish and carry forth our own unique tradition of endowing faculty members who also hold joint appointments with the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Dedications bring together the leaders within the larger Johns Hopkins Medicine family. So thank you to President Ronald Daniels and Dean Paul Rothman for the special remarks you will share about Dr. Jallow. Often I am asked when was the moment I knew I wanted to join the Johns Hopkins All Children's family. As I shared during the most recent installment of one of our team's favorite Zoom calls called Coffee with Jallow, it was actually my interview with George that I knew I was sold. George embodies everything I had heard about this great organization and brought it to life just within our hour together. A person of brilliance rivaled only by his humility. What stood out most to me about George was his commitment to family. In fact, after I met with George, I received a photo of him with his kids taken from their fishing trip that day. And I told my husband the opportunity to partner with George would truly be the professional opportunity of a lifetime. It was a rubber stamp that this organization was full of family, love, pride, collegial excellence through and through. Before we celebrate Dr. George Jallow, I invite Dean Rothman for the official presentation of the Endowed Chair to the University.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. On behalf of the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, I am honored to join you today to celebrate the dedication of the inaugural David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences, and the installation of its inaugural chair, Dr. George Jallow. Endowed chairs are central to the Johns Hopkins mission. They help us ensure that we can reward and retain top faculty so that they can focus on what they do best, treating patients, doing groundbreaking research, and teaching the leaders of tomorrow. And these chairs are enduring. George, you have much more work to do, but I cannot help but to think of those who will follow Dr. Jallow in the years to come and proudly carry on this endowed chair and advance your work even further. The extraordinary generosity of Dr. David Goldenberg and his family has allowed us to establish this endowed chair. David, today we have begun a legacy for the Goldenberg Family Foundation and for pediatric medicine. Your family is the first to endow and induct an institute leader on this campus. So this is truly a historic day. You have seen yourself how George can affect the lives of his patients. Your granddaughter has been one of his patients, and now your generosity will allow George to continue to help many more patients for years to come. I would like to now turn to the recipient of this wonderful gift, George Jallow. George is the physician-in-chief at All Children's, as well as the director of the All Children's Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. The Institute is a multidisciplinary effort that brings together clinicians, researchers, and educators to study neurodevelopment and to provide the state-of-the-art care for children with brain diseases and injuries. An internationally respected pediatric neurosurgeon, he's also a professor of neurosurgery, pediatrics, and oncology at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. He's an expert on tumors of the brain and spinal cord, the surgical treatment of epilepsy, and many other areas. Over his tenure at All Children's, George has helped us make progress in all facets of our mission. George, we are so honored to have you on our faculty. George, I know you have many lofty goals for your patients, your research, your students, and for the Institute. I'm confident that this position will help you achieve that vision. Please accept my congratulations on the establishment of this endowed chair. You thoroughly deserve this wonderful honor. Because the endowment is held and administered by the university's trustees, professorships are formally presented to the university. For that, I'm going to turn things over to President Ron Daniels, who will say a few words. Ron?
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to honor this moment for Johns Hopkins All-Children's-Hospital and Dr. George Jallow. I'm delighted to join leaders from across our institution, including President Alicia Shuloff, Dean Rothman, and Dr. Henry Brem, Director of the Department of Neurosurgery at Hopkins Medicine. And of course, it is an honor to be joined by the person whose vision has made today possible, Dr. David Goldenberg. So, without further ado, I formally accept the inaugural David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. Those of you who know him well know Dr. David Goldenberg as a pioneering medical researcher, a founder of a biopharmaceutical company, and the recipient of honors and awards. In short, a true visionary. But long before these breakthroughs and achievements, he was just a working-class kid from Brooklyn, albeit a particularly brilliant one, having been admitted to the University of Chicago shortly after his sophomore year of high school. In Chicago, David got his first introduction to medical research working briefly as a lab assistant to a PhD student. As he would later describe it, he learned two key lessons from that experience. The first lesson was naturally the fundamentals of research. And the second, as David put it, how to handle experimental mice in a lab without getting bitten too often. As David and George understand so well, path-breaking discoveries and revolutionary techniques don't emerge ex nihilo, but are in fact the products of countless hours of labor, tedium, and self-correction. Mastery, expertise, and real lasting innovation, in other words, often occur one mouse bite at a time. David Goldenberg's storied career is proof positive of this basic truth. Since those early days in Chicago, learning the ins and outs of laboratory life, he has done everything from pioneering techniques like radioimmunotherapy to helping develop groundbreaking antibody treatments, including the FDA-approved Trodelvy, a therapy for metastatic triple-negative breast cancer. I know that our inaugural Goldenberg Family Chair, Dr. George Jallow, shares with his professorship's namesake a devotion to achieving excellence and mastery through persistent study. A world-renowned pediatric neurosurgeon, Dr. Jallow has spent his career perfecting his surgical practice to operate upon and treat children suffering from some of the most complex conditions of the brain and central nervous system. He's so practiced that he's quite literally written the textbook on pediatric neurosurgery. It is these immense reservoirs of expertise and experience that lead so many families to entrust the lives of their children to Dr. Jallow's care, and the Goldenbergs are among them. In 2004, Dr. Jallow operated on David's granddaughter Rachel for a spinal tumor when she was just 5 years old. The operation was successful, and I understand that Rachel is now a thriving adult. This endowed chair will ensure that Dr. Jallow and the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences he leads will continue to set new standards of pediatric clinical care and to pursue innovations that will make conditions once regarded as incurable, curable. It is one more way he is helping this hospital to fulfill its mission of widening the boundaries of pediatric medicine in order to afford all children the highest quality of life possible. And it is a mission built, as always, atop an often unrelenting, invisible mountain of lonely, painstaking experimentation. To Dr. Goldenberg, your transformative gift demonstrates your immeasurable faith in the work of this institution and its people, a faith shared by so many families across the world. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to the future of life-saving pediatric medicine and to supporting true visionaries of the field like Dr. Jallow. Congratulations again.
I have the privilege to introduce the man and the family that made this all possible. Today, Dr. David Goldenberg and the Goldenberg Family Foundation embark on their legacy and commitment to the university, the School of Medicine, and Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital through the dedication of the David M. Goldenberg Family Foundation Endowed Chair within the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences and the installation of Dr. George Jallow as the inaugural recipient for this prestigious honor. Several years ago, Dr. Jallow introduced me to David as both a leader in research and medicine himself and a grateful grandfather he had met with through his work in Baltimore. Dr. Jallow also shared that he and David kept in touch discussing brain and spinal cord tumors, the role of immunotherapy, and research, among other things. As Dr. Jallow transitioned to St. Petersburg from Baltimore, David supported the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences as we built it under the direction and leadership of Dr. Jallow. As the years went by, David continued to support the growth of the hospital through generous gifts from the Goldenberg Family Foundation to the Institute. In the summer of 2019, I had the pleasure of first meeting David and Cynthia in person when I visited them at their summer residence in Mindham, New Jersey. We had a mix-up with the dinner date and the reservations, and they graciously ended up hosting me twice during my trip to the city. David even took this opportunity to introduce a neighbor and close family friend who was interested in supporting the hospital. David continues to help me with the strategy and growing support for the hospital, the children, and the families we serve. It was this weekend, just over 2 years ago, that we started this initial conversation about this transformative legacy gift. Today, the Goldenberg Family Foundation makes this a reality for children and for brain health. Dr. David Goldenberg is a man of many talents and can be described as a pioneer. He has countless accolades, and it would take longer than we have to do him justice, but I'm going to try. He is a son, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a physician, a researcher, a connector, the founder and president of the Center for Molecular Medicine and Immunology, holder of numerous associate professor positions, founder, chairman of the board, and chief scientist of Immunomedics, inventor and principal developer of FDA-approved treatments for cancer. He is a publisher and a collaborator on countless articles, and he is the recipient of over 300 US patents, and the list goes on and on. But most importantly today, David is also a philanthropist, and one that I am honored to introduce to you all as he and his family leave their legacy through this prestigious endowed gift to support the children and the families we serve and this institution. Thank you, David, and thank you, Goldenberg Family Foundation, for all that you do, for making this all possible and bringing prestige and honor to the organization through this transformational gift.
Our family's gift to the Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital is a debut of our newly established foundation to support science, medicine, education, and similar philanthropic causes. The interest in brain sciences stems from our family experiencing brain and spinal cord cancers in 2 of our grandchildren, as well as my curiosity and fascination with how we think and the basis of memory and higher mental functions. Currently, it's believed that the human brain has 86 billion neurons, but it is only a little more than a century since the prominent Spanish neuroanatomist and Nobel laureate Santiago Ramón y Cajal identified neurons, showing how they grow and create connections that explain learning. When I went to medical school, the dogma was that damage to these neurons of the brain and spinal cord could not be repaired. But this has since been contradicted. This is one of the most exciting new frontiers of medicine. Having an institute devoted to brain protection sciences is certainly inclusive of studying these important aspects of brain physiology and pathology. Who could better appreciate this than an academic neurosurgeon? George Jallow, in my view, not only contributes eminently to pediatric patient management, but also to the academic advancement of one of the most challenging areas of medicine, where the nature of the lesion and how it is removed affect the patient's physical, emotional, and intellectual destiny. Indeed, the behavior resulting from brain injury provides the neuroscientists with a basis to study normal brain function, addressing fundamental aspects of how neurons work and communicate with each other to create thoughts and the basis of human invention, even when we are not fully conscious. How are neurons activated or inhibited to control behavior? How do they provide messages to the brain? Can we now progress to develop methods of neuronal repair and regeneration? These are but a few of the challenging questions that this new institute could research. I'm confident that Dr. Jallow will foster such interest in his program. Indeed, his talent and commitment have advanced the science of the many pathologies affecting the brain and its complex neuronal makeup, as evidenced by the books he has edited and the book chapters and articles he has authored. To me, this is a fascinating subject, and we would like to remain involved and committed, especially to fundamental questions of brain science. I would like to recognize Dean Rothman and his administration at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore for your devotion to advancing academic medicine as part of the mission of this freestanding children's hospital that is a unique yet integrated member of Johns Hopkins Medicine. I first met Paul Rothman 3 years ago in Baltimore at a professional promotion recognition event held the year following my son's promotion to the rank of full professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Dean Rothman and I have a few things in common. So-called New York accents from Brooklyn and Queens, and scientific backgrounds in cellular and molecular immunology and the study of antibodies. On behalf of my family, I would like to thank your hospital's foundation, especially Ashley Knoll and her colleagues, for bringing this opportunity to us and making the process so smooth. I know firsthand the efforts and sometimes frustrations behind the scene, even when you have an interested donor, especially during the disruption caused by the current pandemic. George, congratulations. It's an honor to support your work. Thank you for continuing to advance the care of children with brain and spinal cord conditions, and for your devotion to pediatric brain protection sciences. I truly hope this is a continuation of our family's relationship to George and to Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital, and its commitment to excellence in patient care, teaching, and research.
I'm delighted and honored to be able to introduce George Jallow to all of you. I've known George for a long while, and just to give you a little bit of background, George was born in Bethlehem. He did his undergraduate work at George Washington Medical School at UVA, and then trained from 1992 to 1999 at NYU Medical Center. He trained under the legendary leaders Joe Ransohoff in neurosurgery and Fred Epstein in pediatric neurosurgery, and then spine tumor neurosurgery. In 2003, after being on the faculty at NYU and at Einstein, we recruited him to our faculty here at Hopkins. And I must say, it's one of the proudest and best recruits of my career. To be truthful, we knew that George was a spectacular surgeon and spectacular and wonderful person and spectacular neurosurgeon. And we really needed a person to just work very hard and take care of the huge number of pediatric neurosurgical patients that we had at Johns Hopkins. And he accepted the job as working with Dr. Ben Carson, who's the chief of neurosurgery. When I interviewed George, he said that the reason he was coming from NYU is that he was very attracted by the academics at Johns Hopkins, and that he wanted to really see if he could flourish as an academician as well as a pediatric neurosurgeon. And to be honest with you, I thought that might happen, it might not happen. but he certainly was a spectacular surgeon. We really needed someone of his caliber and expertise and devotion to pediatric neurosurgery. So he has turned out to be an incredible surgeon. He's a surgeon. He has referrals when he was at Hopkins and at All Children's from all over the world, from other neurosurgeons who seek out his expertise and his surgical excellence. But surprising to me, and I was so delighted, he turned out to be an extraordinary scientist as well. He's published over 215 peer-reviewed papers, 23 review articles, 39 case reports, 102 chapters, and 8 books about neurosurgery and pediatric neurosurgery. He quickly rose to full professor in the very rigorous system at Johns Hopkins and was appointed full professor 7 years after he joined our faculty in recognition of his outstanding contributions to science as well as an innovative pediatric neurosurgeon. But I think the reason he's being honored today is about his leadership. And it's a extraordinary, humble leadership. He truly defines a servant leader. And I'll give you a few examples of that. Firstly, he was clear that he was a leader when working in pediatric neurosurgery. He completely reorganized our pediatric neurosurgery chaos that we had into an organized, beautiful, well-run service. In 2007, 4 years after he joined us, he became the program director and led the neurosurgery residency at Johns Hopkins to be the #1 residency in the country under his leadership. He did that for 6 years and trained his successor, Judy Wang, who is our program director today as well. Some examples of his extraordinary quiet leadership that I'd like to share with you is that in 2010, when he was promoted to full professor, I met with him and I congratulated him. And I said that we had a tradition in the party that in the department, that we have a party celebrating the achievement of the full professorship. And that I was looking for dates when to have a party about George Jallow for the department to celebrate. And he was very emphatic and very firm with me. And he said, absolutely not. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want a party about me. And I said, George, it's not about you. It's about celebrating the achievements so other people can role model what you've done. And he said, I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want a party. I'm very firm about it. And he said, let me ask you something, Henry. How much would a party like that cost? And I said, I don't know, whatever. And he said, let's say it's $10,000, $15,000. And I said, okay. And he said, give that to, he named an assistant professor who in his first year had lost money. He said, give it to him as a bonus. Take that money that you would use for the party and just, even though it's outside the normal comp program, put it in and encourage him so that he feels recognized and appreciated. And I just thought, well, that's truly extraordinary. Later that year, Ben Carson, who is the world famous director and chief of pediatric neurosurgery, came to me and he said he's concerned that George is now full professor. He should really be given the advancement and be named the chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Hopkins. And Ben felt he had served in that role for many years and he didn't need the title, but that it would be important to recognize George's leadership. And so I again called for a meeting with George and I told him the congratulations that Ben had resigned as chief of pediatric neurosurgery and that I was appointing him as the chief. And he said, absolutely not. He said, we are better off having Ben Carson in that position. Patients come to him for that. It's good. He said, I don't mind being the #2 guy. I'm very, very happy. I don't want the title. And he refused. And again, this for a neurosurgeon, incredible humility. Well, in 2013, Ben did resign. And, the rest, we know what happened to him. And of course, George did become the chief of pediatric neurosurgery and led it to even greater heights. 12 years after he joined our faculty in Baltimore, he was enticed to come to All Children's to be the director of the Institute of Brain Protective Sciences and the chief of pediatric neurosurgery there. And while I was sad to lose him in the day-to-day working here in Baltimore, I was thrilled that he was really elevating to a new leadership opportunity and a real chance to really lead and take that area of Johns Hopkins to new heights. As you all know, that in a few years later, when there was problems at All Children's, everybody there knew George well enough that knew that true leadership and true sort of moral high ground and ethical behavior at the highest level was represented in George. And he was made physician-in-chief and the vice dean for Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, which are really unprecedented positions for a neurosurgeon. So it is with great admiration that I join all of you today in celebrating our truly humble but extraordinary leader, extraordinary clinician, scientist, and true leader, George Jallow. Thank you very much.
You just heard from several people about Dr. Jallow's impressive career. George, we continue to be amazed by what you do for your patients, for your amazing research, and for the students you teach and mentor. On behalf of the School of Medicine, I'm pleased to present this medallion to you as a symbol of this honor and in celebration of your installation as the inaugural recipient of the David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. George, congratulations.
I would like to begin by thanking David, Dr. Goldenberg, and the Goldenberg Family Foundation for their magnificent bequest to the university, the School of Medicine, and Johns Hopkins All Children's in bestowing this extraordinary award on me. I would also like to thank President Daniels, Dean Rothman, Alicia Schulhoff, and everyone attending this hybrid event today. Henry, Dr. Brem, thank you for your kind words. I am indebted for all that you have done for my personal and professional development. In 2002, you took a huge gamble hiring this young, unproven talent as the second pediatric neurosurgeon to work alongside Dr. Ben Carson at Johns Hopkins Hospital. I vividly remember our conversation in your office about transitioning to full-time academics, basic science bench research, neurosurgery, teaching, work-life balance, and larger-than-life pediatric neurosurgeons. It is your leadership that has allowed me to flourish and to become the person who I am today. You have been a wonderful mentor and friend all these years. I know that I've learned much more than just pediatric neurosurgery in the 18 years that I have been a member of the Department of Neurosurgery, and I'm grateful to you and all my wonderful colleagues, Ben, John, Raphael, Judy, Chayton, as well as one of the largest teams of pediatric neurosurgeons in the country, Al, Dodie, Eric, Mari, Matt, Luis, and Lynn. I must mention the other members of the department who have since departed, but who have become lifelong friends, Alex, Zia, Jean-Paul, Alfredo, and Kai, and the many others unmentioned who have helped shape me. I also would not be here today if I did not meet David's granddaughter, Rachel, 17 years ago next month in Dr. Ben Carson's clinic. Rachel was consulting with Ben for her newly diagnosed spinal cord tumor. Dennis, Rachel's dad, recalls bringing his 5-year-old daughter to Baltimore and Dr. Carson saying, "I have the most experienced surgeon, albeit younger, and no gray hair at that time for this delicate operation." That was my first introduction to Rachel, her parents, and her rare tumor. I had long, detailed conversations with her parents and her grandparents about the high risks of spinal cord surgery, which are forever etched in my mind. David and I had further discussions about brain and spinal cord tumors, head injury, and the role of immunotherapy when I was in Baltimore. These exchanges continued years later, even after my transition to All Children's in 2015 to lead the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. Thank you, David, for supporting me and the Institute so faithfully all this time. Ashley, thank you for supporting IBPS and bringing both Dr. Goldenberg and my dream to fruition. To give a little background about my professional journey, I was fortunate enough to do my residency and my fellowship at NYU and Beth Israel with my earliest mentor, Fred Epstein, who's regarded as one of the pioneers and the founding fathers in the field of pediatric neurosurgery. He was an innovative brainstem and spinal cord tumor surgeon who taught me how to safely remove these intricate tumors with very little room for margin of error. In the 1990s, this was uncharted surgery, and I can recall presenting our experience at many national and international meetings. The audience of surgeons thinking I was one uneducated resident and fellow because they could not and did not believe there was a role for aggressive surgery in the long-term outcomes for these children. I felt my early career path or trajectory was like the original Star Trek theme song, to boldly go where no man or woman has ever gone before. At the same time in my pediatric neurosurgery fellowship, I met another mentor who I did not realize was a mentor until years later. This international fellow, Karl Kaufbauer, was an Austrian but Swiss-trained neurosurgeon who came to New York to be on the frontier of surgical innovation. The only hurdle was my New York personality and Karl's rigid training. We were truly an odd couple, as we certainly could not have been more different. With time, we became partners, authors, editors of several pediatric neurosurgery textbooks, and best friends. Karl showed me the value of a comprehensive team approach to caring for children and their families. We grew up in the in model, as we called it, where I am still in contact with families and staff. It's been my lifelong dream to bring together surgeons, neurologists, psychologists, psychiatrists with the focus around the one organ, the child's brain, to provide a comprehensive, inclusive neurological care for all children. On my personal journey, I would not be here if my late parents, who did not speak a word of English, had not immigrated to the United States to raise 3 young boys. I am so grateful for all their sacrifices and the many wonderful ways they shaped the lives of 3 men. Michelle, thank you for all that you've done to support my professional career and being the glue that holds our family together. I certainly would not be the person I am today without you. Finally, I will summarize my life by our 3 children. To Max, our oldest child, I'm encouraged by your confidence, and this gives me the strength to continue each day at work and become the best pediatric neurosurgeon that I can be. To Nikki and Lexi, thank you for just being the twins that you are. Each day you amaze me with your unique and incredible bond. Lexi, your protective and nurturing reminds me to be supportive of others. And Nikki, your generosity is unparalleled to your peers. You shock me with how easily you share your last goldfish or Dorito. This unique character trait makes me want to be just like you. You are the true heroes. I wish I could spend every minute with you to learn and grow from you. In closing, my family, friends, colleagues, my patients and their families, all have had a tremendous impact on my life and have made me a better person. Our lives have intertwined in different ways, but together we have forged relationships that have made an impact for the greater good. Because when we work together, there's no limit what we can achieve. When we share what we've learned with each other, stand beside and support one another, we triumph. For my personal credo, I once again reference Star Trek Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Things are only impossible until they are not. Thank you all for the role you have played in mine, for sharing this memorable event with me.
Thank you all for joining and attending the virtual dedication of Dr. George Jallow as our David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. And congratulations, George, on this achievement. We look forward to your continued leadership, and thank you for all you do.